Hey everyone, this is Kate from Moonflower Moments. I want to talk to y'all today from a place of like absolute and true vulnerability. And I don't think that's any different from how I like speak on a normal basis. I don't know if I know how to make a YouTube video without being vulnerable. When y'all let me know how to do that, like please let me know, because like I don't know if that's really what I do within this space. But I do think it's important to set that intention of vulnerability because I want to talk about something today that like does make me a little bit uncomfortable. But at the same time, like I think it's important to recognize for me as well as for other people that TarotTube is a home, right? Like not only for the tarot creators, but also for the people that like our viewers, the way that we interact together, the community that we build, whether from forums or hashtags or like replying back on Instagram or things like that. Like the TarotTube community in itself is a place where I want us to feel like we can engage in like healthy discourse with each other. So I'm going to go ahead and follow my own advice and try to create the space that I want to be in by talking about something that does make me a little bit uncomfortable. So with that being said, I'm sure you can tell from the hashtag, or not the hashtag, the title down below, that I want to talk about the ways that I stay within a healthy tarot practice, even when I'm starting to feel overwhelmed. And I feel like this is a really important topic because I think that it's important to remember the word practice and the word tarot practice. Practicing is an act, like it's an actual thing that we do. And I really think it's important for us to recognize like how much energy goes into that. And for some of us, like it takes a tremendous amount of energy just to even like pull one card. Some people can sit down and read 12 cards for 100 people at once and like just kind of roll with the flow of it. And I think that like it's important for us to recognize like where we land on those spectrums and recognize that even if we are someone who typically can read for 100 people, like no break at all, like just go ahead and get it, there's still days in our life where like we need to scale back our practice and be like that one card a day person or that one card a week person, whatever works for you in the way that you have the energy to give to that act. So I really wanted to bring up for me personally, like I think like analyzing the cause of the overwhelm is really important as well because that keeps us in a mindful perspective. And so for me personally, like I know that I'm going through some like big ass monumental shifts. So, you know, because like I said, I don't know how to make like a non vulnerable video. Like I don't know how to do that I've been going through some big ass personal changes in my life and working through things in therapy and like just learning more about myself. So for example, like I decided just a couple, like maybe even like a month ago, I think it was a couple of videos back, that I no longer really want to go by Katie. That's a name that I chose when I was like 14 years old and I feel like it doesn't fit me anymore. So I've decided to go by Kate, K-A-I-T. And I just feel like that's kind of symbolic on some larger changes in my life that are also contributing to overwhelm. I am a teacher of seniors. The seniors are about to leave. I'm in charge of graduation. So there's all of that. And then like I would be amiss to say like, I think definitely if you are paying attention in any form, capacity, whatever, like of course there's overwhelm too with just the larger what the fuck is happening in the United States. And so I think that all of us, if we are paying attention in any capacity, probably are feeling overwhelmed. And then when you add other personal layers into it too, I think our natural inclination is to take a step back. And here's where I want to like be really kind of mindful about what I say. I think for people that are not like tarot content creators, that natural step back comes pretty naturally, right? Like you hit a point and you're like, oh, not reading with like a deck of cards for like 2 weeks. Like I feel like I have some friends in my life that are regular tarot readers who are really good at saying, nope, I'm not taking clients right now. Like I'm not signing up for events. I'm not even gonna read for myself. Like I don't need that right now. You know, I need less of the introspective meditation and guidance and more of the sitting and kind of processing what's happening. And I think as a TarotTube creator, like you kind of get stuck in a little bit of a rut sometimes, especially if you're creating content like on any level, you kind of get stuck in a rut because it's like in order to keep the algorithm happy, but also like our own expectations. Like we're really hard on ourselves too. You do have to produce content like once a week. And that really for me is not too terribly bad, especially because I pre-plan a lot of content. But at the end of the day, like it is kind of always something that's in the back of your mind. And I have to go ahead and say like right now that I feel like TarotTube has been so much for me because I never really saw myself as a creative person at all, point blank period, until I came on TarotTube. And I think that's because I always thought that in order to be creative, you had to be unique. But now I recognize that like that's kind of bullshit. Like it is bullshit. It's totally bullshit, because the word create is in the word creativity. It's in the word creator. And so as long as you are actively creating more than you are consuming, though I do think the consumption process is part of creativity too, I think that you are engaging with your creative juices. And so I think for the first time in my life, like I do see myself as a creative person. But every artist, every poet, every person who considers themselves to be a writer, creator, someone that is a vocalizer, anything at all, they know that, of course, creativity comes in cycles. And I think that with everything that has been going on in life with me and the world, definitely heavy on the world here, that like it's normal for you to kind of take a pause back and say, hey, what's going on? But like with that being said, like I'm not going anywhere. I have no intention of going anywhere. This is not a farewell video, but this is a video of me saying I need to watch what I'm doing and I need to be mindful of what I'm doing, because I want to enjoy this space. I want to still practice tarot. I still want to exercise my creative juices. And I think it's important for us to say to ourselves, like, what conditions do I need to set up in order for me to be successful for that to happen? So with all that out of the way, I think that it's really important to address like the elephant in the room, right? And no one likes to talk about it, and I can understand why they don't like to talk about it. Hell, that's why I have a preface on my video saying like, hey, this might get a little bit uncomfortable. But I think a large part for me is that like overbuying is an issue. For me, at least. I'm speaking from my personal point of view. So y'all know, if you're on my TarotTube channel, if you've watched other videos of mine, if you've ever just like seen a video that I've made, like my decks have entire personalities. I have very deep and meaningful relationships with my decks. Some of my decks are my most prized possessions in all of the world. And like, I don't just see them as possessions, but I see them as tools for divine wisdom. And I see them as like living, breathing objects that like my intuition can flow back and forth with. And I do firmly believe that you don't even fucking need a deck of cards in order to divine. Like, you don't have to do that. Like, you can literally go outside and look at a tree and like analyze the tree bark and see what kind of like meditations come from like the symbolisms of like the tree bark. Like, you don't need to have decks. But at the same time, like for me, like the decks are such an innate part of like my intuitive muscle that I think it's very normal for me to get excited and say, ooh, I want this and I want this and I want this and I want this. And it's something that we all resonate with if we are people that may have like bought more than what we can chew. So with that being said, like I think for me personally, like I don't have an issue with someone like buying and just having a deck sit on the shelf for fucking indefinitely. Like that doesn't bother me. You get to do what feels right to you. And if you're someone who just likes to collect for collect, like I think there's nothing wrong with that. But for me, like it does hurt me when I have like multiple new decks come in and I'm like, oh my God, what the fuck? Because I have a very practice driven YouTube channel, but I also have a very practice driven life. And so going back to the act of practice, going back to the word itself, like practice means you actively do something. And so I don't want to just have a deck because it has pretty colors. So if that's the reason you want to have a deck, that's totally fine. I want to have a deck because I want it to add some kind of enriching practice in my life or supplement some kind of enriching practice. But then you end up in a situation where you have 200 practices, 300 practices, 400 practices, and you're like, what the fuck, I don't have enough time. During the summer, this is fabulous. Like when I'm off work during the summer because I'm a teacher, excellent, great. But during the school year, I'm like, oh my God, no, I have to scale it back. So I think that has been important for me to keep in mind, is that like, I do really need to be mindful about how much I bring in at once, because I don't feel comfortable having a basket of decks next to me that doesn't have a purpose. And like, I'm not saying that all decks have to have a purpose. I'm just saying that that's like the way that I feel about them in my own practice. So that's like the elephant of the room that I wanted to get out. So I am probably putting myself on a low buy. I don't want to say that. I don't want to say that, but I probably need to. And by like low buy, I mean like maybe one a month, which for me is a healthy way for me to take index. One a month is perfectly healthy. The issue is when it becomes like 4 decks or 5 decks a month. And like I said, everyone knows like their own parameters and everyone knows like how much time they have to dictate it. So if your healthy normal is like 20 decks a month, knock it out. But like for me, I probably need to scale it back to like 1, which is where I was for a long time. So that's kind of the elephant in the room. So other than that, I really kind of wanted to get into some of the more tangible things that I'm working in. Now that I've kind of like embraced that paradigm shift and I've said, okay, hold up, you do need to slow back. You got too much shit going on to bring in more shit. I feel like I kind of naturally adopted a practice because like I still want to sit in my tarot room. I still want to play with my cards. Like all of that is still very meditative. But what is working for me right now is what I'm about to describe. So the first thing that I want to share with you guys is that like I really think for me it's important at this time to set clear intentions. And like none of this is probably like groundbreaking, right? But I think like I don't know if this is an experience that some of you resonate with. I would love to hear your thoughts, but I feel like the more that you read tarot, sometimes the more that you just kind of pull cards to pull cards. Sometimes it's just fun to pull cards. Sometimes it's just interesting to pull cards. Sometimes we just fucking want to pull cards. And so I think it's really important for me because I was getting into the point where I was like, well, I want to use this deck and I want to use this deck and I want to do this practice and I want to do this, where I was pulling and like consuming like too many messages for me to actually like sit down and like pause and contemplate. And so I've been doing a much better job about like setting clear intentions. So when I sit down to read, like I actually make sure that if I don't have enough time to journal about it, if I don't have enough time to light a candle, if I don't have enough time to actually sit down and fucking look at the card instead of just get like a gut instinct and then like move on, like to me, I'm not getting very much value out of it if I'm home on like a Saturday and I pull like from like 4, 5, 6 different decks, one card here, one card here, one card here, one card here. Like, Katie, what do you need that many messages for? Like, you're just chilling home on a Saturday. Like, you don't need that many. See, I just called myself Katie. But that being said, like, I don't think there's anything wrong with reading like that. It's just, I can't personally consume that much information right now. So what I've been doing is setting very clear intentions and making sure that like when I sit down to pull cards, like I'm not just pulling to pulling. And I hope that makes sense. Another thing that I've been doing that has been really helping me is that I really have been focusing on one tarot and one oracle. Is this groundbreaking? No. I bet like half of you watching this video, that's probably what you do. And I get that. But like I said, my little Taurus moon, I like the things, y'all. Like, I like all the things. I also love to layer things. So I like to have like 4, 5, 6 different decks in one spread. And I will layer like tarot and tarot and tarot and tarot. And normally like my mind is willing to commute that and ready and is excited to look for patterns and is exciting to make connections with all of these different decks. But at a certain point, it just becomes like too much. And so what I've decided to do is carry on my envelope practice. So y'all know about it if you've watched any of my intention videos, but I just have like these little shitty envelopes and they have like the date written in the corner. So this one is 9. And I used to pull like 3 oracle and 3 tarot a day. Because like my idea was if I'm pulling these at the beginning of the month for me to open and like have my daily cards like pre-selected, I wanted to use the whole deck, which meant for tarot, I needed to pull like 2 to 3 cards a day to get all the cards in there. But like, you're not always gonna get a tower every month. Like, I hope we're not all getting tower every month. Like, I really hope that. And so to me, it was kind of interesting on an intellectual level because I would pull a tower on like a relatively normal day just because statistically, like there has to be a tower if I'm pulling like every card every month. And it was kind of fun to like step back and look at things and say, oh, I can kind of see how this could have been a tower moment, or I can see how this could have been a tower moment for someone else. But in a way, it was fun intellectually, but it was a hell of a lot of work because then I was looking for messages that, I don't know, you can argue that like every card you pull from a deck, no matter if it just like falls on the ground or like if you like badly shuffle, like say for example, you're pulling a new spread for a new deck of cards and you get Ace of Cups, 2 of Cups, 3 of Cups, 4 of Cups. Somebody could say that that's a bad shuffle, but then other people can say no, like you're always going to get the cards that you're meant to get. And I do get that. But like I said, like I could not, it became too much for me to look for the tower in a day that was a perfectly normal day. And like, it wasn't necessarily causing me anxiety because it could be like I was looking for the 8 of Wands in a perfectly normal day too. And like, it was fun and it was intellectual, but it wasn't giving me a straight enough message for me to comprehend. And I don't think that tarot has to. So let me go ahead and make that clarifying point, is that sometimes tarot is not supposed to make sense to us. Sometimes we are supposed to sit with the messages. Sometimes that's the normal route of things. But in a place where I am, where I'm feeling overwhelmed with so many different things in my life, I think one of the reasons many people do turn to tarot is for clarity. And so I don't want to go ahead and add more befuddlement to something that I'm supposed to be using at that time. I've set that intention for me to use it for insight, you know? So I've been reading, like I said, it's not fancy. So we have one tarot and we have one oracle. So this card says, catches the sun and keeps most of him for the evening that surely will come. And so what I like to do in the case of this is, like, I know personally what the moon means for me. For me, the moon typically means that things are coming to the surface that we've kept buried. And in the case of like this very androgynous figure on this card, I definitely see that coming through too, as like there's kind of a duality between like what we're meant to give and what we're meant to take in this moment. And so especially with the part that it says it catches the sun and keeps most of him for the evening that surely will come. So to me, it's like almost like if we have the moon coming up, if we have shit coming up in my life that I have repressed, if we have like the darker hidden shadows, and the message is that the moon catches the sun, so catches the light, and keeps most of him for the evening that surely will come. Yeah, that's poetry, but it makes sense to me. So the moon is catching the sun and is keeping him hidden for the evening that surely will come. So I can read this, these are my cards for tomorrow, and I can read this and say, okay, it feels like I don't understand what's going on right now. Like everything feels very dark, everything feels very moody. There's a lot of like illusions that are coming on, but I need to keep in mind that the sun is there. The sun is just being kept out of that light. And so where is the sun behind that moon? And so it reminds me to be patient, because in the card itself it says that the evening will surely come. So eventually that sun will come to the surface. Done. There we go. Okay. I've never read like this before. How many of y'all are the same way, where when you jumped into tarot, you were like 40 cards on the table now? Like, I don't know if I've ever like really slowed down to say, what the fuck does one card and one oracle mean? Hopefully that doesn't like damage my ethos too bad, but like seriously, like I am getting such strong messages just from saying one card each. So some of the times I will look at it and I will pick like a word. So in the case of this, I would think to myself, like the phrase I would repeat is that like the moon is keeping the sun. So like the darkness is hiding the sunshine and the light. But sometimes I will also like have kind of an image from the card. So in the case of this, I probably would look for the moon as I go about my day. I also have like earrings that are in the shape of the moon, so I probably would wear my moon earrings and really just take all of my time and all of my energy. And this goes back to setting intentions, to truly and holistically embrace the energy of that card. And when your energy can be focused on one card, on one thought, on one thing at a time, it can be so powerful. And that goes back to the power of purpose. Because now, instead of trying to see so many different things all at once and getting overwhelmed of, you know, where is the tower when it's not even really a tower day, you're able to take that one image, that one clear, concise image, and not only look for it and analyze it, but also work with it. And I think when we simplify our messages down to their absolute core, to the smallest part, we're able to really take away that nugget that we can chew and that we can work with moving forward. And I think that's the whole point, is that when we're pulling cards, we never want a querent to walk away feeling like we have not given them advice. We want them to feel like maybe they've given themselves advice, if like that's your kind of reading style, but like we don't want them to go away feeling like they're completely hopeless, is really what I'm trying to say. They need to have something to kind of chew on. And I feel like we need to treat ourselves the way that we would treat our clients and just say, okay, here's your thing to chew on. Here's your little nugget. Because it's funny, because when we're reading for other people, we remember that the brain can only hold so much information. But when we're reading for ourselves, we get oversaturated in it. Okay, so that's my whole point. So anyway, back to the concept of like the one oracle and the one tarot. what I've been doing is I have been putting it into these envelopes, like I said, and I used to pull these cards in the morning, but I don't anymore because I find in the mornings, like, I'm not in the headspace to receive the message in the way that I need to, because already in the mornings, like, I don't have a very good, strong morning, like, mindfulness practice. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, I have to grade this. I have to make sure the slides are up. I have to email this kid back. Like, it's just a lot of, like, to-dos that are running in my brain. I can't process the to-dos at the same time I'm trying to process a message. So what I've started to do is actually pull these envelopes at night. And that is one of the ways that I've still stayed within the rhythms of my healthy practice, is like I can pull these the night before. So when I wake up, I have 2 cards on my desk. Those are my cards from the day. Those are the cards that I look for, but I've already processed the message the night before. So I'm going into it and I'm smiling when I'm looking at these cards, because I'm not like, what the fuck do these cards mean? But I'm actually like, oh, I know exactly what that card means, because I already worked through that myself last night. And that's been really nice. Another thing that I have been doing is that I have been working within the confines of this book, actually. So it's Morning Meditations. It's by Rock Point in New York, New York. That's who it's by, Rock Point. My mother-in-law gave me this because she knows that I like to journal. And I was like, I'm not sure about this, because I've always been someone who just, watch, I'll show you my journal. So I journal like this. Like, it's just a complete blank page. So I thought it was weird that this journal had like one question, and then I'm supposed to, like, I have like massive handwriting. Like, I'm supposed to take this one question and like fill it up in that blank. And so for the longest time, like, this kind of sat unused, because the question is, how can you show empathy often with loved ones? I feel like I need more than a half page to do that. But in actuality, guys, this has been slowing me down. So like I had mentioned before, like, when we're feeling overwhelmed, I think that, like, our brain can only process so much information at once, especially when it's coming down to divine messages. And so when I'm sitting here and I open to this like blank page, sure, journaling is healthy for me. I enjoy journaling. I've journaled since I was a kid, but also that means that I have all of this fucking room to spiral. All of it. And sometimes spiraling is healthy. Sometimes it's important, because especially if you're writing down your spirals, you can identify your triggers, you can identify your patterns. Like, I get that, but like, I can't allow myself to get into the shit right now. Like, I just can't. And I also know myself well enough to know that, like, I have to verbalize. I have to put the ideas down. And so instead of getting lost in the spiral of doom, which is the general notebook, I have been working out of this one. So what I do is I've been pulling these at night as well, along with my cards. So I take like 30 minutes every night, and this is the prompt for tomorrow. Who do you need to forgive today? I mean, I'm not saying the prompts are light. That could be a pretty heavy prompt. But then another one is, what acts of self-care can you practice daily to brighten your glow, both inside and out? Some of them are a little cheesy in a good way. Your offering is your presence to the world. What is it for today? What do you offer the world for today? And I think I need this. I think I need this. You know, and I've thought about ways to have more of like a guided practice in my life in general. Like, I have thought about, I have a bunch of like journaling prompts saved on Pinterest. So for a while I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go to Pinterest and I'm going to pick a prompt, and I'm only going to write about that prompt. But the problem is, I also have decision fatigue, as I'm sure many of you do. And so it's like, I can't fucking open up my phone and pick a prompt. Like, I can't even like decide what I'm having for dinner tonight when I'm at this level of overwhelm. And so to just open this up, and like, I'm going in order, y'all. I'm not skipping. So if I want to journal, which I do, I want to journal every day, then I have to write down 3 personal goals that are unique to your journey for today, this week, this month, and this year. Okay? And this rigidity is somehow giving me the brain space to be able to receive the messages more clearly. You know? It's because like I've kind of cut out the clutter. I've cut out the noise. I've cut out the spiraling. Like, I'm not giving into those temptations to spiral. I'm just kind of getting to the meat of the message. And so once again, like the Tarot Oracle pair, it's giving me that small something that I can chew on, that small something that is making my practice really intentional right now. So one of the things that I thought was going to work for me that did not work for me, because I also want to include that in this video, is I thought that it would be a good idea for me to focus on one type of deck. So when I was initially starting to feel overwhelmed, I was like, you know what, maybe it's because I need to focus on one type of deck. So I was like, you know what, I'm only going to work with, let me see what I have here. I'm only going to work with, fuck it, I'll go ahead and say it. I'm only going to work with the RWS, because I do have about 3 like classic RWSs. So here we go. I'm only going to work with this bad boy. And like JK Tarot, and then I have a 1971 RWS. I'm showing the cards. Y'all have seen the cards before. But the problem with this is, if I say to myself, I'm only going to work with RWS, then I want to read all about RWS. Then I want to bring out all of my resources for RWS. Then I want to study RWS. Then I want to talk to people about RWS. And like inherently, there's not a problem with that. But if I'm trying to simplify my life, I found out really quickly that it is not a good idea for me to focus on one type of deck, like Marseille or Pip or nature decks, because then I want to dive all in and my little Page of Swords brain wants to consume all the information. So I stopped doing that. Another thing that does not work for me when I'm feeling overwhelmed is pre-selecting decks. So I do have a basket of decks over here, but typically I go back and forth, y'all. I've tried making a couple of intention videos, and I did enjoy the process of making them for like July, February, and March. But I feel like if I pre-select decks, then I all of a sudden feel an overwhelming need to use those decks, especially because I've said on YouTube, hey, I want to use these decks, so y'all are kind of expecting to see them. But then what ends up happening is that I have other decks that I want to work with a little bit more. And like, I think a massive part of my process is sitting down and saying, hey, what deck wants to talk to me today? And I close my eyes and all of a sudden I see the Aztec Tarot. That's the deck that I need to work with. So if I'm pre-selecting decks, I'm kind of limiting my intuition too, because I know for the Aztec Tarot is my sun deck. It's the deck that I want to go to when I want to live to my most fullest and brightest capacity. So when I want to use the Aztec Tarot, but like I'm instead using the Lonely Woods Oracle, right? Because this is what, this bad boy is what I have on my desk. Then I'm not really getting to intuitively read about the sun. I'm instead reading about fucking grief work. I'm like, there's nothing wrong with that. I might have thought on a Monday that I need to work on some shit. I'm pulling my grief work deck. But on Wednesday, I say to myself, you know what? I don't want to work on that shit. I want to work with my sun deck. And so I found that it actually really does cause me intense overwhelm, because then I feel guilt. Then I'm like, oh my God, look, I created this capsule collection. I created like this nice little basket, and it had a theme, and it had ideas, and like it had intentions of what I wanted to work with. I find that my life is much better suited when I sit down and I spontaneously say, no, I need to work with this deck right now. And so pre-selecting either types of decks or like baskets of decks, like that definitely makes me feel more overwhelmed, because then I feel guilty. So like I said, I know that some of this probably is not groundbreaking. Some of this is probably not even wholly unique, but we're gonna go back to the concept of creativity. Like I do believe that it's important for us to be able to express. And I want to just be on here and be honest with y'all. I do a lot of like dissecting my tarot practice videos. That's kind of like one of the core staples on my channel. And I think it's also important for me to say, hey, like I'm dissecting my practice, and this is what it looks like when it is very scaled way the fuck back. I still love this space. I still love this gift. I still love divination. I love tarot so fucking much, like so much. I love tarot so much. But I think sometimes in order to maintain relationships with the things that we love and the people that we love, we have to take a step back and say, what is working for us? What is not working for us? Because if we're not continually checking in, then the bond is not as strong as what it always could be. So I'm gonna go ahead and leave it there. So thank y'all so much for listening to my 30 minutes, basically, of stream of consciousness. And I really appreciate y'all being here. So let me know if you have any thoughts down below. I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Like I said, I don't know, like, it's important for this to be a place of discourse. So until next time, y'all.